All right, so we're gonna go on a little house tour because my apartment is almost fully furnished and I've been living here 6 months and I want to kind of like, I guess, review what I've accomplished so far. So here we go. Okay, so the first thing is that it's upstairs. Okay, so the first thing is that it's upstairs, which I kind of like. Due to the lighting, you want to go through here, and voila! Oh, hold on. But yeah, it's a cool little one-bedroom apartment that's on the south side of Baltimore that I furnished over the last 6 months. So we kind of go section by section. So the first section is like my altar here. It has my Bible, right, which is very well loved in red. Has my my black leather gloves for keeping my hands warm. It's the only reason I have them, I promise. I have a katana, ceremonial sword. Right, this thing is so cool. It's fairly sharp. It's called the Sword of Loyalty. It's I got it because my buddy had a katana at his house and thought it was the coolest thing in the world. And also in the military, swords are a thing, they're way cooler than guns. I have this little replica firearm here. It's a Combat Master, which is pretty cool because it has like an actual action on it. And it also has bullets. Let me kind of show you here. I keep the bullets in this little box here, but you can kind of see that, like I say here, if you load it, it's like the coolest thing in the world. See if I can do it with one hand. Let's say you load it, and then you have this here, loaded firearm. It actually shoots a projectile. And then, even cooler, it ejects the shells and actually has like an actual slide release mechanism, which is really super cool. I cannot say enough cool things about this thing. But the main reason I bought a replica is I'm just super irresponsible with firearms, and I wanted to kind of get practice, both, handling it, transporting it, since you can get a lot of real reps with these replica firearms, especially with how realistic they are. And my next goal is to get a rifle and a replica rifle, but it just gets so costly, so I gotta do better next time. I also have here my ceremonial dagger. So I always keep, one of these bad boys on me. Like, I'm a huge fan of always having a knife that's at least somewhat sharp. I'm definitely gonna have to get an actual combat knife, because that sound is way too loud. And I've been in a few street fights, and I'm personally not a huge fan of using a knife in a street fight, just because they're so messy and you need practice. But having a knife is better than nothing, because a lot of criminals tend to have firearms on them at all times, which is crazy. I also have note-taking gear, so I always keep something on me. I also keep on the other side, blank note-taking gear. That's also pretty cool. I have some documents here in my journal, which I write in almost daily, every other day. My wallet. This huge list of documents includes a whole bunch of cool stuff, let's see here, my not military orders, because I'm not in the military, so don't let anyone ever tell you that I was in the Marines, because I promise you they're lying. Anyway, I also have over here some counterfeit cash. Counterfeit cash is such a cool thing. It's good for illustrations, especially if you're in financial services. You can say, oh, you can make so much money doing XYZ. I'm a huge film guy, so I do like to do movies, and also it's good for a distraction. I'm gonna do a movie at some point. I'm not sure when, but I'll use the counterfeit cash in the way it's meant to be intended. Oh yeah, one other thing about the counterfeit cash. I used to work at a grocery store, and you have to actually use this stuff in order to teach people like how to handle it. You got to know the difference between like a fake dollar and a real dollar. And depending upon, I do know a lot about counterfeits for some reason. Don't ask me why, but depending upon where you get them, they have various levels of quality. Like let's say if you see even here, these, if you look so super closely, you'll see motion picture use only, whereas these other ones have this giant red copy logo. But if you get it from the right vendor, you can get counterfeits that don't have that sort of stuff and are fairly realistic. But again, then you start getting into how much they cost, and it's like a whole ordeal. And if you're dealing with people, and just between me and you, if you're dealing with people who handle counterfeits at a high level where it's like, hey, we're going to talk about the difference between this counterfeit dollar and this counterfeit dollar, or it's 10 cents per $100 counterfeit, or 9 cents or 17 cents per $100 counterfeit, you're probably in the wrong business, and you should probably get as far away from those people as possible. Another really cool thing I have right here is my wall of social activities. So I'm a very social guy, and I do go to a lot of events, but these are the things I like to do the most. You see here is probably the big thing, which is the Chesapeake Shakespeare Company. They're one of the more fun things to do in Baltimore. I love theater and movies. You see also here the Baltimore Rock Opera Society, which is cool, but it's a little less upscale. So I'm not as big of a fan, although I do like their shows. This show is actually really awesome. A computer that loves, especially with our AI generation, people I don't know, you can have a virtual girlfriend. So it was a good show. I'm excited about everything they do. But I think the crowds that go there, this sort of event has a better crowd than this sort of event, even though the actual performance of this is just as interesting, if not more interesting, than these sort of performances. Over here, we have a tarot card from an event I went to. That was at Current Space. Current Space is a cool little gig, but again, same thing. The crowds of people are not my type of people. I'm not a huge fan of artists, so I try and stay away from those sort of things. We have here the Fells Point Run Club, right? I do love running. It's a part of being part of a healthy lifestyle, and I try and train as if I was in the military. I'm not in the military, but if I was, I would run very often. So, I like to do run clubs, even though I don't really do them as often, because I mostly just run at home. I literally just run around this building, all the time. Here's a little pamphlet from AA, right? Because I did complete a year of sobriety in Alcoholics Anonymous. Spectacular thing. So one thing I'll say about AA is it's actually really, really cool. If you actually do the step work, a lot of people in AA do a lot of really good work, both on themselves and for their community. And depending upon the actual community you're in, the AA community is just super spectacular. For example, I'd say this AA community in a place like San Diego might be better than a place like Baltimore, but nonetheless, you're still going to get that fellowship. And a lot of times, the AA is held at a church. So you're literally at the front door of the church, and you have a kind of softer way of getting into the church, with the majority of AA being, with the major goal of AA, 9 out of 10 times being to get you back into the church anyway. The only thing I don't like about AA is that the relationships are private and secret, so I can't be like, oh yeah, I met this person at AA. So it's not really conducive to business or long-term relationships. I'm not a huge fan of keeping things secret, unless they're matters of national security. And where I'm at is not a matter, and where I'm physically at or how I meet people is usually not a matter of national security, unless it's a very, very bad person. And again, I should be able to say, hey, I met them at AA. So I'm just not a huge fan of the secrecy. One thing I am a fan of, though, is the Peabody at Johns Hopkins. I'm a huge fan of architecture and old buildings and academia. So this is probably like right up my wheelhouse because the John Hopkins Peabody does a lot of free or low ticket shows. So you can always just go there and just like, listen to some actual classical music. So fun fact, one of the reasons why I wear a suit all the time is not because I work in finance. It's because I grew up wearing a uniform in school, right? Like I wore a uniform every day when I was at like elementary school, I think it's called. And I was also a huge fan of classical music. So the character of like men I looked up to when I was younger always wore suits, like the presidents, like the police officers, like like all the people, all the men I looked up to as a child always wore a suit. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna wear a suit, especially if I'm like working. And the only time I don't wear a suit is if like I get a job that requires me to not wear this suit. Like I'm gonna be dirty, I'm gonna be like getting my hands dirty. 9 out of 10 times though, what I usually do is I usually modify the suit. Like I'll take off the jacket and maybe the tie, wear like a vest, and like whew, I do need to get a vest, man. The finance bro look is actually a super fire look, and it's like it's great for utility. I need to get back on my game because I've been slacking just because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Most of the aesthetic of my house, as you can see here, is black. Like right now I have this one couch which has a black throw pillow on it. What I want to do is get a second couch here and then maybe get a second table, probably like a glass one right here. So there'll be like two couches that are like across from each other that also fold into like one bed. It's like the coolest idea I've had, but I ran out of money when I was furnishing this apartment, unfortunately. Okay, over here we have my actual work desk. So if you see, here's my actual portfolio. Here is usually some paper, my planner. I use a Hebrew calendar because, I actually like the fact that it goes further back, 2024 is not the dawn of time, and human history, like recorded human history, is about 6,000 years old. So having a calendar that goes back to 5785 just better reflects human history than a calendar that only goes back to 2024. Especially when you're researching stuff in the Bible, which a lot of the events took place in the year 2000 on the Hebrew calendar, right? But if you look, but it'd be like something BC, and I just don't understand the Gregorian calendar at all. So under my blank paper, I usually have like actual presentation material. So here you have my actual lease, I have my voter's registration, so you can tell which political party I'm for, stuff like that. My residency documents, basically. I do have a meeting coming up where I have to prove this stuff, and I hate that sort of stuff. Underneath here, I have more like paperwork I have to do. The amount of paperwork I have to do on a regular basis is insane. Like I actually should be an accountant because I get buried in paperwork on a regular basis. It is super annoying. We also have here another smaller calendar, right? You see, same thing. It's in the Hebrew calendar. I have colored pencils in case I want to like draw. I've upgraded from crayons. I keep a set of pencils and I keep a sketchbook, which I have not put anything in yet. And I also keep an actual regular book, a not Bible, so that in case I want to read something that's like actually relevant to what I do for a living. Here you can see some of the artworks I've drawn. These are all fairly recent. You see here we have a Marine here because if I have a dream of being a Marine, it'd be my goal in life to like actually wear dress blues, die and be buried in that. That'd be so cool if I could like, be buried in the desert like Moses, but wearing this uniform. That'd be like the coolest thing of all time. Also I have this Memento Mori artwork, just the skull, super aesthetic, and just kind of reminds me that, hey, I'm gonna die, and I do want to get into finance at some point. And when you're in and specifically life insurance, when you're in life insurance, you do have to talk about death and when you're in life insurance, you do have to talk about death and disability often. So this is my reminder that, hey, it's okay to talk about this sort of stuff. You're gonna die. It's okay. Here we have our samurai, or sorry, more accurately a Ronin. Some guy, just a Nameless Bushido practitioner, which is interesting because I do have a katana myself. I have a poem here, which is not super important. I do like writing poetry, but I don't like writing poetry because it's the fastest way to get into trouble. And a picture of an Instagram model who I actually had met. And I drew the picture because I just needed something to draw because like I sometimes forget that I'm able to draw if I don't do it frequently. So I was like, I just need something to draw, and she was like, just perfect. You know, I was gonna give it to her, but I was like, you know what? It's actually cool just being on my wall. The last thing is my actual desk. I have my second phone, which is used for like viewing movies and stuff like that, which I'm probably gonna replace it in a tablet. I have my actual notes, the pen in case I need to write stuff down, and I usually keep some water. I try and keep water in every room, so half gallon a day. Right now, there's something crazy in my bathroom. I'm probably gonna do an artwork here, but just mostly black aesthetic. I need another matte, you know, but nothing crazy here. I have a supply closet, which I keep a majority of my backup cleaning supplies. I also keep weights because I do like to exercise at home. It's one of my favorite things. I used to I like group workouts a lot, but I realized that group workouts are only as relevant as, you know, what you do on your own. My point is that like if you're the kind of person that thinks that group workouts are the only training you need to do, you're wrong. You train on your own, and then you do the group workouts as kind of like a showing of your work. You know, it's like it's a contest, like it's a competition. You treat it like the Olympics, where it's like, hey, you know, you train on your own in private, and then when the time comes, you show all your results to the world. Here we have my second favorite room, which is the bedroom. Okay, so first thing, we have my robe here. This thing is amazing. I pretty much wear this when I'm not like working. I'm probably gonna put it on pretty soon. I have my table, right, which I like candles here. I sometimes will put like my movie thing here. Sometimes I have a book here. You know, my bed, which I keep it black. You know, just love the color black. I have my chair, which is for throwing clothes on. You know, have a few books here. I have a Siddur. So a Siddur, if you guys are not aware, is a lifestyle guide for, you know, certain people, right? It basically tells you like home and table rituals, prayers, and stuff like that. Really, really cool. I don't like this one as much. I had one previously that I liked a lot more, but that one was stolen. This one is a decent replacement. It is also higher quality. Like this book is super high quality. Just some correspondence here. You see here, the Marines, because I was like, I really do want to join the Marines, you know? And here we have a painting that I made. This is actually really cool. This is a painting I made of Sarah, you know, and some conversations we had. Because this is the sort of stuff I want to put on my wall, like, you know, anytime we have, like, letters. But I also want it to be, like, aesthetic, and I have not been able to find the right aesthetic for, you know, this psychopath who was a very meaningful person in my life, you know. We have another book I'm reading here, Questions Obnoxious Jewish Teenagers Ask. The rabbi here is actually from Baltimore. I got this book at a thrift store because I do a lot of shopping at the thrift store. You know, it's a good book. Like, it's a really good book. You know, most Jewish teenagers are very obnoxious, as are most Jewish people. So it's a really funny read. Here we have my Bible, another one, because I have like I don't think you can have enough Bibles at all. This is the one this one was gifted to me by Babcock Presbyterian Church. You know, I love this version. It's NRSV. One of my favorite things about it is, aside from the wear and tear, is it also includes the Jewish calendar. Like, oh my God, I feel so represented. It's like they understand it, you know. And in general, it's just an English version of the Bible. It's not like there are a lot of people who are like super crazy about the King James version, but I do not like reading that version because it's too hard to read. It's like for all that, you might as well have it in Hebrew, you know? So this is good for like just referencing the actual Bible in English. I'm currently reading the book of Mark. You know, I love this. The narrative, there are so many lessons in the narrative of Jesus Christ, and anything that it contains the actual, you know, Old Testament, the stories of Moses, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, like always have my heart. You really cannot go wrong. I do have to buy some other religious books, and I probably need some more translations. Like I'm gonna get this in Chinese, and you know, maybe Spanish and stuff like that. But this here is like the center of my life. You know, a little less so than my other Bible, but this is like its little brother, so it's a very important book. Anyway, the whole thing is like, you know, your religion does not prevent you from studying other religions or acknowledging the fact that America itself is a Christian country. Like, you have to be kind of stupid not to realize that the majority of the population of the United States is Christian, right? Like you'd have to literally live under a rock not to know that. So even if you're not Christian, you know, regardless of what your religion is, you have to accept that Christianity is a thing, right? Same way you should understand that Islam is a thing, and understand their religion, because 9 out of 10 of the wars that, you know, the United States goes into are with Islamic countries. So you should, right, you know, understand some Islam, or at least the way they think, because it'll just be good to know in the long run, you know. Like I'm not telling you to convert, but I'm saying, hey, you gotta know your enemy. You know, I would argue, there's a quote in Sun Tzu that I'll just put on the screen if I get the time, but basically you gotta know the enemy more than you know yourself sometimes, because if you don't know your enemy, you're doomed to fail. Okay, and the last room is my kitchen. So I do need another tablecloth. I had a white one, but it got super dirty super fast. So I'll probably get a black one for general use, and then a white one for special use, and also get like placemats and stuff like that in China, which I just don't have at the moment because money's tight, bro. For some reason, there's a lot of red in my kitchen. I just don't know why. It drives me insane. If you see here, I'm in the middle of cooking because dinner's coming up. I'm gonna have chicken and rice, and that's pretty much it. You know, that's literally all I ever eat. Last thing here, we have my buddy, right? It's a little origami crane, because your boy is super talented at origami. You know, I was like the worst student in high school because all I did was origami. But yeah, that's my little apartment, you know. Last thing here. Got this mirror, you know. I like the mirror because it helps me check my fit. You know, you have to fit check yourself before you go out in the day. Like there's no way. Someone once told me that I'm narcissistic for owning a mirror. I'm like, how in the world can I ever look and make sure my tie is the right length? Make sure my shirt's, like, there's no visible stains on my attire if I don't own a mirror. Like, that makes no sense. But then again, the person that said it is not the kind of person that cares about their appearance. So it is what it is. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed my house tour. It was a lot of fun to do this. I'm hoping that in the next year or 2 years, I get a new house, like an actual house. I want to buy a condo, and I'm able to kind of show you guys, you know, that place. It's not that expensive. It's not as expensive to get a house as I thought it was. And if I get like a VA loan, so let's say I magically get in the military or something like that, I'll be able to get a pretty good rate. And then I think, you know, because I already have the setup, you know, where I know pretty much the structure of my apartment, it's pretty much just a matter of, you know, purchasing everything or moving everything. I could like sell everything in this apartment, you know, and buy it again and be super happy. You know, putting it all together probably took me like a week, and I had a job too, so I was working full time while I furnished this apartment. And it's cool to kind of have a little bit of a break to kind of see, okay, well, you know, what did I actually do in the time frame that I've been living here? Because I feel like this has been the most productive year of my life. It's been just a blessing. You know, I feel like I've looked good, smelled good. I've had moments where I haven't been perfect, or my haircut wasn't on point, or my shave wasn't there, you know, or my fit wasn't like dripped out or something like that. But overall, like, you know, it's been a good time. So, you know, if you guys learned something about me from this video, that's pretty cool. If you didn't, you know, well, I'll do another video and maybe learn something after that one.